In September 1963, a news story invades a small town in France. The Voltaire Institute integrates mixed education for the first time. For some, this is a new way that will change education, while for the majority, this is a bad dynamic that will not be the start of anything. There are 11 girls who enter, and both teachers and students are paying attention. Among those who stand out, we have 3 girls. The first is Michelle, the younger sister of Jean-Pierre, the most outstanding student in the last grade, although as he himself has told her at the Institute, they do not know each other. Then, recently arrived from Algeria, there is Simone, the friendliest and wittiest one, who becomes Michelle's best friend. And finally, there is Nick, the one who steals glances and stands out for her intelligence. Among the boys, apart from her, there's Aline Lubac, a young man who is at the Institute thanks to a scholarship. Then there's Pichon, a studious and intelligent young man who is hardly surprised by the arrival of the girls because he has several sisters. Although when he sees Anix, he falls in love at first sight. And finally, there is Joseph Decong, the bully who thinks he is tough by doing bullying. Among the teachers, we have the head of studies, Paul Belanger, who is the one who came up with the idea of starting the experiment. He's married to the Institute's nurse and is also the uncle of Michelle and Jean-Pierre. And finally, there's Miss Camille, the new English teacher, who falls in love at first sight with Paul, although from the beginning, he puts a stop to her flirtations very well. From the first day, there are problems. First, because in classes, both the male and female teachers limit the girls in their learning. They do not take them into account, and if they do, they only give bad comments. Well, except for Miss Camille. And second, because of the nonsense of Joseph Decong. In one incident, he causes both Michelle and Lubac to be taken to the principal's office, and in another, he leaves Michelle looking ridiculous by making a bucket of water fall on her, which provokes the anger of Jean-Pierre, who punches him right in the eye, causing him to unintentionally lose an eye. So Decong ends up one eye. As expected, on one hand, this leads to Jean-Pierre risking expulsion no matter how good a student he is, and on the other hand, Paul getting scolded for how bad his idea has been. However, he does not give in and says that they only need to reorganize themselves because they have already admitted the girls and cannot just discard them like that. The next day, Jean-Pierre has a disciplinary hearing to deliberate whether he stays or not. Miss Camille tries to get along with her colleagues, and Decombe, despite his medical leave, decides to go to school all patched up. And why, you might ask? Well, to continue making life impossible. He intimidates Michelle and locks Jean-Pierre in the bathrooms there, minutes before his hearing. Well, I'll tell you in advance that Jean-Pierre stays, and this is due to a Latin contest. Since he is excellent in that subject, the Latin teacher, having a good position, decides that he should stay because he will participate with him. Annick, for her part, continues dealing with the teachers. In this case, since she cannot become the class leader, she gives that opportunity to Pichon by telling him the answer to a question that the teacher had left, according to her, very difficult. And Annick does this because Pichon is the most sensible one in their grade. Plus, she doesn't like how they bully him. On the other hand, couples start to form. On one side, there is Simone with Jean-Pierre. From the first moment, Simone falls in love, and it is not until Annick with her antics that she unintentionally ends up conquering Jean-Pierre. Then we have Michelle and Lubac. This happens after what occurred with Decombe, and because afterward he helps her with her subjects, since for the most part, Michelle is doing poorly. So why doesn't she ask her brother for help, who is a total ace, you might ask? Well, it turns out that she does, but he responds to her like this: "I asked you to help me, and you didn't want to. So mother found someone else to work with at home." Being fine with Simone is one thing for Jean-Pierre, and with his sister is another thing. And not only him, but the parents themselves, because facing the expulsion situation, everyone blamed Michelle, telling her that if Jean-Pierre were expelled, she would never attend school again. And well, thanks to the plot here, it didn't happen. Paul and Camille do not lag behind. Their relationship also starts to grow. First, because Paul helps her integrate by telling her that she does not have to take the students' jokes to heart, nor the rejection from some teachers. And second, because he makes the process of her payments easy. This is because Camille is getting divorced, and every deposit she makes will go to her husband. And well, I could explain more things. Something similar happens with Annick and Pichon. In one subject, they're forced to work as a pair, and although at first it is difficult for them to adapt to each other, their work turns out well, and they establish a friendship because Pichon gives her a bicycle so she can get around, because the one Annick had was stolen. Now, it can be said that anyone could have stolen the bicycle, but it is assumed that it could be Robert, a charlatan who claims to be a talent scout. This guy frequents Anik's mom's place. Even upon finding Nick, he offers her to pose because of her beauty. The blonde refuses, but later ends up agreeing with the aim that he stops visiting her mother, who seems excited about becoming a great actress. And this is because it is not the first time she has been deceived in that way. A couple of weeks pass, Shimon and Yanier kiss here and there. Michelle knows nothing about this, but she is the same with Lubak. This after they set up a couple of similar scenes, like in 3 Meters Above the Sky, where we see little races and Lubrak coming to Michelle's rescue. Camille gets along better with her colleagues thanks to a soccer game where she made them win. And of course, she gets along much better with Paul. So much so that at a certain point, Camille musters up the courage to take the step and kisses him. But then Paul puts the brakes on. Now, you might say clearly this is because he is married, but I tell you no. In reality, Paul is married to Janine as a facade because he has a panic of relationships and everything that entails. Janine is with Denise, another nurse, with whom we discover she also has nothing fixed because on one of her outings, Janine ends up falling in love with an actress. However, after receiving the proposal to go live in Paris, Janine decides to continue with her lifestyle. Meanwhile, Camille, apart from Paul's rejection, has to deal with her family not accepting her divorce and continues inviting the one who is still her husband. During one of these, he wants to keep conquering her, and Camille, wanting and not wanting, spends the night with him. However, she clarifies that this will not change the idea of the divorce at all, something that angers the guy, and we discover that he is a jerk. To not extend ourselves, the secret of Paul and Janine stops being a secret for 2 reasons. The first is because of Janine, since she establishes a friendship with Camille due to an event that happened with Shimon, one in which she suffers a spontaneous abortion. Camille and Janine support Shimon by running with everything necessary so that her aunt does not find out, because remember, she lives only with her uncles. And well, this may seem strange because Shimon is underage, but somehow they arrange the situation. The thing is that all this leads to both Camille and Janine being sincere. On one hand, Camille tells that when she found out she was pregnant, she lost it on purpose, while Janine tells her the agreement she has with Paul. And on the other hand, it is that Michelle discovers Janine kissing Denise, because yes, they had reconciled. To top it off, Michelle goes to tell Jan Jean-Pierre, and she finds him kissing Shimon. After this, a couple of weeks pass and we see that Lubrak and Michelle have started a relationship, and whenever they can, they see each other in hiding. Shimon is sad, first because of the loss she suffered, and second because Michelle has stopped talking to her, something that, whether she wants it or not, harms her relationship with Jan Jean-Pierre, since, as I said, to Jan Jean-Pierre, his sister's opinion matters little or nothing. By the way, Jan Jean-Pierre does find out what happened to Shimon. For her part, Paul receives bad news. First, he finds out that Camille already knows about the agreement he has with Janine, something that makes him quite angry. Second, he worries about Lubrak's poor performance and tries to help him by transferring him to another school. Because I didn't tell you, but thanks to Paul, Lubrak has the scholarship. However, Lubrak, being with Michelle, rejects the offer to go to another school, although this seems like a bad idea because he keeps arriving late to classes and doesn't have enough time to study. And third, he receives a warning call from the director because the students are saying that they saw Janine kissing a woman. And yes, the one who started the gossip was Michelle herself.
On the other hand, the one who returns to give the final blow is to come, who now without any pouch on his eye goes to the parents of Jean-Pierre and Michelle to tell them that Yanye is with Simon and that Michelle is with Lubak. Something that is a total disgrace because, as seen throughout the chapters in this small town, every gossip, no matter how much of a lie, turns into a martyrdom. That's why everything that is not considered correct they keep secret. A clear example is Yanine's situation. That's why she rejected the offer to go to Paris, because what would people say if she abandoned her husband? And even more so because families always praise their children's triumphs. In this case, in this family, they praise Jean-Pierre, who here they say is with a pied noir, referring to Simone for being from Algeria. And this goes more with the story and the era in which the series is set. Now, regarding Michelle, the disgrace would be that Lubak is an orphan boy. As expected, both Michelle and Yanye are punished, and this provokes 2 things. The first is that Michelle and Lubak decide to run away, while Jean-Pierre ends his relationship with Simone. Upon getting to know Lubak, Paul is in charge of searching for Carlos. He spends a whole night searching here and there but finds nothing. Tired of the situation, he only accepts it. He gathers courage to confess his feelings to Camille and faces the director, telling him that Michelle, due to health issues, is far from the city. And regarding Yan Ye, he tells him that if he wants, he can believe the rumors or turn a deaf ear. Otherwise, if they kick out Yan Ye, he will also leave with her. At the same time, the kids celebrate the end of the semester at Pichon's house, taking advantage of his parents' absence. And well, here two things happen. The first is that Pichon clarifies his feelings for Unk after feeling used, although it must be clarified that Unk never had bad intentions. And second, that Yan Ye regrets his decision and wants to get back with Simone. However, she no longer wants anything to do with him because she hadn't even felt the breakup that much. The season ends with the director giving his total support to Polly and Yan Ye with the news about the escape of Lubok and Michelle, although here they say that Lubok kidnapped her. And finally, seeing this little couple on their way to Paris while the director assures that mixed education was a mistake and will not be repeated next year. Thus ends the Voltaire Institute. I hope you liked this video a lot. If so, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.